Welcome to the Centurion Response Podcast, where we speak with faithful business leaders about their experiences following Jesus at work, at home, and in their communities. Hi, today I've got Ben Johnston, third generation leader of Pittsburgh Tank and Tower Group in Henderson, Kentucky. Thanks for being here today, Ben.
My pleasure, Pete. Thank you for the invite, and God bless, my friend.
Thank you. So we've known each other, about 8 years now, and you've given forklift rides to my son, and he thinks of you as Uncle Ben. He got to come with me to give a Christmas present to Linnell in December, and we had this fantastic 6-hour round trip day of. I learned more about his favorite video game than I thought I'd ever know. But you've been a highlight in a lot of ways for our family. Would you please give a little bit of a history on your family and the company and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Absolutely. And I'm going to take a quick side note. So I have a lot of young men and women that call me Uncle Ben and Miss Denise Antonini. It's one of the pleasures of my life to have that adopted family that we just collect as we go through life, and that we can help inspire and mentor their lives and try to be a light that shines for them, and that they know if they got a bad day they can pick up. So I'm extremely glad Henry's in that group. That puts another smile on my heart. Ben Johnston, 63 years old, feel like I'm going on 1,000. As you said, third generation family member. They've been working 46, 47 years. I laugh at myself when I look back at how much I wasted my early life and not on the important things like educating myself and preparing myself for the journey I'm on today. But I suspect a lot of us have those same stories if we want to be honest with ourselves. Dad died at 85. He was in the office up to the last 5 days of his life. Had the pleasure of picking him up at his home and driving him to work and put him in his recliner with his blanket and his electric fireplace. And, we had 3 years of just wonderful time at the end of his life, to the point we have no unanswered questions or conversations. What a blessing to be able to do that for a parent. Grandpa, a lot of good memories as a kid, going to Bowling Green and being with him. But obviously, the working career and past, so I wasn't as close to him as I wanted to be as his death came upon us back in '81. But blessed with a beautiful wife of 43 years, I think. 2 sons, Chris and Levi, 36 and 32. Yeah, I hope we got the dates right, Pete. You're smiling.
She'll remember.
Yeah, absolutely, and she'll remind me too. As you well know, there were 6 of us children. I'm the only one left alive, and that leaves a big empty spot in my life. My goal this year is to make it past 63 because my oldest brother, my oldest sister lived to be 63, but didn't live to the end of 63. So my goal is to break that stretch, and I believe the good Lord will let me do that. I think He's got plans for me.
Let's jump on there. So, we've talked about, connection with Jesus, and we've talked about, He's often referred to as a man of sorrows. So you've had to sit vigil more than once, and you've had very long, like half goodbyes and then full goodbyes as well, right? And
yes.
How has that tenderized your heart or prepared you to endure as a leader today?
Pete, if you and I knew this conversation was our last conversation, what would the intentionality be of that conversation versus what it is today? And it's not that this is not an intentional conversation, but so, helping somebody die, the focus, the intentionality everything, whether it's an action or a word or trying to commit it to memory, is like in hyperspace. Uh, and I love that part. Uncle Ernest was the first one I really had to help die in '96. And I remember today those snippets of those conversations, just like we were sitting here right now. They wouldn't have been burnt in my mind if he was healthy and I was healthy and we just passed, hey, Unc, how you doing today? So I'm thankful for that. Um, those things have put a sense of peace in me. I hold my baby sister Elizabeth's hand when she took her last breath. What a blessing to be able to honor them, number one. And that is a job and an obligation. They are family. So it has just built a lot of a character in me. It has it's actually taken the hurt away, because after so much you get a little numb. And I mean that in a good way, Pete. I don't mean that negatively. But so in our growth groups, we often talk about what season of life I'm in. I used to think when you had a child, it kind of completed your life. And then I soon realized until you've helped somebody that you love die, there's another season you need to go through. And I've lived through that season many times, which has led me to a whole nother season of life that is so fulfilling.
So I hear in that the value of being present and how that translates. I know, like, as the safety culture got started, you had to own that, and it came on the heels of a tragic learning experience. And you had to force a pivot because it was a shift, not just in practice, but in the culture. But I would imagine that it's not because there's a parallel to dying, it's a parallel to being present that seems like would really underscore why the safety culture comes. Can you describe why that became so critical for you?
Our hopes are, Pete, that our wishes are that anybody that dies makes it to heaven. Obviously, we know that's an incorrect scenario. So, death is not. It can be a very happy experience. It can be a very sad experience. And I relate that just to, is that person a Christian, and do you know truly they're with their heavenly Father, or in the fires of hell? So when I think about my obligation as a business owner, as a president, a chairman of the board, whatever my title is, to ensure that people operate in a safe manner so they go home to their families in the same or better condition each day. I take that obligation seriously, and the primary focus is because that's what we need to do as a business, and that's what I need to do as a person. But the other side of it is, you sure don't want to shorten somebody's day before they come to the place they need to be with Christ.
That's a heavy everyday reality. Like
It is. It is.
So one of the things that comes with that then is, so as I've watched PTTG, I've noticed that I think some of the people who end up, climbing tanks, there are a lot of positions at PTTG where you could get hurt doing them. And it seems like for a lot of people, as they come through school or they come through, especially kind of the academic setting, they're kind of taught you're going to need to take a vocational path. And that doesn't have kind of the noble meaning that it does today for a lot of what their experience was. It kind of means you're, second tier, and you're going to have to work with your body. And it seems like there is an assumption that those messages make a person feel less valued as they're growing up, and that meeting a safety culture that says, no, really, it's okay to stop the process. In fact, we expect you to, because you matter, is a pretty radical message that's not easy to have land, but that you have to hold that space and that truth for them to encounter it. Is that a decent observation of what it's like there? And
Um, yes and no, Pete. So if you look at the younger group of employees, and I'm just going to use the word younger. Um, they truly like to be empowered to know that they can shut a job down if they see unsafe acts. And I think for the most part, the younger ones, that they never saw the guys running around without belts and not being tied off, and the belt versus a harness. And uh, so it's a lot easier with the younger group of people that are coming in today. And I also, when you look at the time frame in America where everybody's got to go to college, that's going away. And there are many of us, not all, but many of us realize that was a mistake. And we started hearing college and or career readiness. So we also realize that there's a lot of young people that are coming out from the VOTEC schools and the work unit schools and coming out and making better money than if they would have went to college and went and tried to start being a CPA or an attorney or doctor. Thank goodness we have all. But it is a lot easier now, Pete, than it was 20 years ago to get them to accept and understand there's a reason why we do things from the safety culture side.
so there's a harder one, which is you do self-insurance, you do fitness center, and there's this idea of holding space for people to express. I mean, taking care of oneself is an expression of that same personal value. It seems like a harder sell than safety harnesses.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so what motivates you to take on that expense? That the phrase I use is picking up the tab, and this feels like an expression of picking up the tab, but it's not an easy one.
Um, Actually, I'm going to correct you. It's very easy.
Okay, tell me about it.
So let's look at the world today. I'm going to start kind of high and I'll filter down, Pete. But retention, trying to find employees that want to work for my company versus yours or anybody else's. We're fighting for people. So what are things we can do to make the group want to be part of the PTTG family? And part of that is that they understand that we care and believe in them. Okay, so from there, what are the things we're going to do to show? Because we can tell,
Mm-hmm.
show me, tell me, involve me. Well, once we involve them, they truly begin to start understanding the reality of what we're trying to do. And when we talk about the pillars of wellness, there's multiple pillars of wellness. I'm a firm believer that if you don't have a relationship with Christ, you're missing that pillar. I'm a firm believer if you want to eat hot dogs and milkshakes every day, there's a pillar you're missing on. We have marketplace chaplains that come to the facility to spend time with employees. We had one that was commit suicide last year. He didn't talk to anybody. We missed that signal. Fortunately, he told one of the chaplains, and we were able to, through the chaplain, and I to this day don't know who that employee is, nor do I need to, but his life is saved because he had an avenue. If you look at the statistics about how lonely people are post-COVID, and we see that as an epidemic, we see the mass shootings and the crazy things going on in the world. I think it is my obligation as a human being in a position of authority to be thankful I can have those expenditures to start filling in those blocks. I can tell you, Pete, if I catch you not wearing your safety belt, I can fire you. And there's nothing you can do about it. You either wear it or you get fired if I catch you. Now, you might do it when I'm not looking. I cannot tell you if you eat unhealthy, I'm going to fire you. I can't tell you if you don't have a relationship with Christ, I'm going to fire you. Nor do I want to. But I think we have through our business, we have an opportunity to show people what God's doing in their life, what we're doing for them with our insurance programs, with all the wellness activities, whether it be a gym or somebody to talk to when you're just lonely and lost. it's not a burden.
Hmm. At what point? So it is, though. I mean, we talked about the idea of being slapped awake by heavy as the head that wears the crown, or I'm calling that a centurion burden. That there's a patriarchal burden. If you're the person that somebody can project their daddy issues on, you're the daddy, and that seems like if you're gonna step into that, you're moving from just a transactional relationship into something where you are at least holding a deeper sense of obligation and responsibility than is contractually the minimum. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of ways to overstep on that. There's a bunch of ways that, if the other person doesn't respond, to say, I mean, gratitude's one of those words that you can get really tricky on. What woke you up to that, and what's the reward that you experience for choosing to be awakened by the burdens that are on you?
That's a good question, Pete. We've read the book Good to Great. We've read Maxwell's 5 Levels of Leadership, and don't want to be at level 1 or level 5, and at different times in our life we could be on all those 5 levels all at the same time, depending on the person. The best. I was so blessed when Corey Roberts and I got introduced, and he opened up my mind to a whole different level of leadership and growing, and my growth obligation to myself because of my obligation to the people that work for me. As you know, Pittsburgh was a relatively family internal group up until 8 or 9 years ago, when I realized if we were going to grow and be successful, I had to get out of my way and bring some people in that I just refer to smarter than me. But they brought a lot of different ideas and concepts that I was never exposed to, only because in a small business and you're running hard all day and you're just trying to make the ends meet and keep the company healthy. But Corey really flipped that switch.
At what point did the company belong to God for you? Did it always?
No, I wished it had of. I wished I'd been that smart. That's really good. Golly. So in that 2.5-year journey, when I was trying to decide the future, the next 100 years of the company, and we've talked about this, but the ESOP conversation was a 2.5-year journey. Is this right? Is it wrong? Is it the way to truly propel the company? And there was a specific Saturday toward the end of that journey that God and I, I wasn't smart enough to hear his voice. I mean, I don't know. It would be pretty cool to get to experience that. But as I was praying to him and asking for answers, there was a piece that came to me that just said that was his answer. And that's probably the day that I could say the switch truly flipped to, I knew that was right, and I could trust him to help me bring the right group of people to put it together for my goal of how do I ensure this organization is here for 100 years and it's not tied to a person, and how can I leverage what God has given me to change the lives of our employees and probably their children as they are old enough to retire and have something where they can afford to spend time with their children and grandchildren. I can tell you there was a specific day, and it was a Saturday, that piece came.
So you'd been very serious about your faith for a long time, but then there was this piece about what's next. Mm-hmm. And then you've got to figure out how to disengage or how to create room for other leadership voices, which has to be its own journey. What's it been like, both in terms of stress or burden, but also in terms of business results? Did you see a gear change from that Saturday?
Yes. And it wasn't overnight, but as I brought in an executive management team, very difficult to sit through hours of meeting and listen to them all. And instead of, okay, we're going to go out and march and get it done. Now you've got multiple voices to sort through what's right and what's wrong. And, oh, by the way, they all had different opinions quite often, which is good. We don't want to sit at a table where everybody has the same opinion. That was a huge challenge for me as a leader, because I never had that. I liked it. I got frustrated. There's times when I just say, can we just end this darn meeting and let's go get something done? And thank goodness they have tolerated me as I have grown in wisdom and maturity to understand the value of those conversations or executive management meetings. It's been that season, that journey in my life, Pete. It's been so fun and so fulfilling. Yes, God's always been part of my life, but I was one of those cradle Catholics. So, they teach it to you in school, and you get out of school, and I missed a lot of years, and I'm working feverishly to make up to God for that. And as we all know, none of us are perfect. We're all sinners, so we all have challenges. And my goal is to continue to minimize that to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Cradle Catholic, guilt will only carry you so far. I grew up Calvinist, and so fatalism will only carry you so far too, and then you have to start to pedal.
Yeah.
So how would you describe the results that have come since then? And I think this probably also ties into, because I know they're in numbers, and there are specific results, but I think it probably ties all the way back to the season of life stuff that you were talking about. Like, I would imagine the way you're keeping score now, you know how to answer it for the 32-year-old hot dog version of you, and you also know how to answer it for the 64-year-old version of you that's going to be here next year. So,
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're claiming that. We're claiming that year already. So, go over as quickly as you choose to the 32, because I assume that the 64 is better answers anyway.
Yeah. If I was answering what I saw at 32, I've got the bull by the horns. I've got the world made, and I'm good and great, and I did it. I look at it today, and I didn't do anything except take the time to sit back and look and understand and be honest with myself that the company as it was could never develop much further or any further if I was going to remain at the helm. And I needed to get some professional help through business associates that understood, that had the ability to flourish, given an opportunity in an environment that wanted him to have opportunity to be successful. I'm very to make sure I wanted people that understood my belief in God, and I wanted to surround myself by people that have similar beliefs, especially on the executive management team. I saw the company flourish. I saw the value of the ESOP flourish. I saw employees grow and blossom that never would have happened if I would have stayed manager, president of the company. It couldn't have even grown properly, and probably would have became a wreck because I couldn't do it all. But I think the key point, Pete, from business ownership standpoint, is what I want, and understanding that, because we have to be honest there. But if we're not honest about where we're at in life, how do you even know how to start planning for the decision? And I just I, I laugh. I talk to myself a lot at night right before I go to bed. What I did wrong today? What could I've done better today? Fortunately, I don't do it out loud, so Denise never hears me. But it encourages me to wake up the next day and start with an agenda about self-correcting the faults of myself. But it's real simple today. 60, soon to be 64-year-old. I'm thankful that God has given me a platform and an opportunity that I can make a difference and impact people's lives in a positive way. And part of it is financially. That's a big part of it. But being a sphere of influence for them, being a rock when they need to shut the door and they're just having that bad day. And that puts a huge burden on me or others in my position, because guess what? People are watching what you're doing, what you're not doing. They're watching it all the time, 24/7. So that comes with some challenges too, to make sure we're not just talking, but we're living what it is we're trying to exemplify.
So when you do that nighttime audit, lately I don't know if it's just a straight up, spiritual battle against accusation or whatever, but man, am I good at being frustrated with where I'm weak. And my reaction time to get from that frustration to actually giving that whisper to Jesus is way slower than I want it to be. I feel like I'm on that trapeze swing, and all I have to do is let go and turn around, and it'll catch me. But I'm swinging and swinging. What have you found makes you more efficient when you're doing that self-audit so that you don't just spend the night wanting to throw up?
I think if I could point one single thing that's made a difference, it is trying to, the second that negative thought comes in my mind, say no. Not doing this. I'm not going there. You get out of my mind, because that's the devil, and he's yapping, and he wins. Golly, he's so good at his job too. But that's been huge to me, Pete. Is when those if it's a negative thought, if it's something that it's just wrong, because we know from our conscience and the way we live that that's the devil yapping at us. How quick can I shut that down? Because as quick as I can get that out of my heart and my mind, I'm back in that good spot with Jesus.
Comparing the 32-year-old and the 64-year-old, when I was 32, and I'm 52 now, so I'm halfway to smart. When I was 32, I liked when somebody would say I was a good writer or I had a great turn of phrase. And today, it's 50-50. Some of the time, I have the thought of, good, that's useful for what I'm trying to accomplish. Some of the time, I just chose to express rather than communicate, and was that just an ego expression that I bothered to do the turn of phrase? I would imagine that at 32, like 8 years ago, I remember somebody saying, Ben Johnston knows how to do every job in this company at least as well as anybody else who's on it. And he's really worked hard to be at that spot. At 32, that probably would have felt pretty good. Today, I would imagine, to whatever extent that remains true, it's useful, but there's a thing that you find his pleasure in that's very different from that. And so what do you feel like the Lord is inviting you into in this stage that somebody who's 32 or at 52 and is trying to look down the path, what would you point to for a person to watch for that is meaningful to learn?
I'm going to change your word from watch to listen.
Okay.
How often in a conversation, instead of me listening to Pete, I'm already thinking about what my response is, versus truly listening and understanding. And how do we listen? And it's hard to listen for God, but he does give us nudges, and I mean, obviously we have free will, so we can do things wrong. But I think back to the word I used early on, intentionality, and focus. Have a path of what it is you want, a plan, uh, and but it's so important to listen to for me. I'm not talking about others. It's important for me to listen to where God is directing me, and I believe with all my heart when I look at where I am, He put me here today. I'm alive for a reason, and that reason is because my skill set is I've been successful at managing a business that helps others, and it's now at a level where we can leverage and use the business through Christ at the workplace to continue to honor His kingdom, and that's why I'm here today, because He put me here to do that. So I understand that. So my journey and goal now is to make sure I continue listening, fulfilling, and understand those nudges when He's saying, "Hey, have you forgotten this?" or you need to be doing that. That's work wise. And then on a personal basis, I'm just frustrated at myself when I look back at all the lost time, and how do I make up for that lost time with my friend Jesus before He calls me home.
I remember leaving my advertising agency, telling a woman I'd spent a lot of time with that I was going to go do something for God. Mm-hmm. And it was a year of lunches and just a bunch of time. And her response was, "Oh, I didn't know you were a Christian." And that wrecked me. And it's been, I think there's a rule, like, one of the first rules I wish Christians were better at adopting early was don't be an asshole, because a lot of times we tend to militarize religiosity, and that makes us offensive. But I can imagine that when you're talking about making up for lost time, that there is a
sense of urgency.
Yeah, but and like he picks up the tab. But what a gross feeling to the opportunity cost is unpleasant for sure.
There you go. I'll share something I haven't said to anybody. It's okay if you put it on the video. I'm not asking you to extract it, but one of the sometimes when I just feel like I'm failing or I haven't done enough or I need to be something different, I have a file in one of my file folders there at the office, and it is full of little notes from people. And sometimes I just find myself I need to open that and get some re-encouragement to tackle again. Mm-hmm. So that is, it just feels good sometimes to pick it up, because it's a reminder that we are doing the right things, or I am.
That's a great, I mean, that's treasures. And it's amazing how, well, even you couched even sharing that, like that's from years of being in an isolated kind of role, isn't it? Like if you think about somebody else saving notes, they wouldn't have had to preface it, but the leader's supposed to somehow be stoically unsentimental or something. I think that's an interesting moment.
As when you look at the role of a parent, you look at the role of myself as and now my title is chairman of the board and chief technical officer for the organization. I used to say it's pretty lonely at the top. I don't say that as much anymore because I've got some executive management people that I can connect with at a level that's on a personal basis if I'm just struggling or need to talk. Never had that before either, and that is such a blessing. Yes, we got father, priest at church, but our ability to vent when we need to, we really have to be careful with that. The last thing we want to do is let that flow downstream, which creates a undertow and a current that is just so terrible to any organization. We have to be strong when the building's falling down around us to encourage other people. Come on, let's go. We can get out the door. And as we build that wall, it also funnels some of that stuff up inside of us that we probably don't get to let out like we should. That goes back to a comment I made earlier. The things that God has put me through in my life through the loss of loved ones has really dampened the hurt of things to the point it's manageable now, because I don't know, it's just been through a lot, and that has helped me with my sense of peace even in those areas.
The downstream thing. So I know that I can't take, like, if I'm worried about money or if I'm feeling sad, I can't go to my kids and tell them about it, because it puts too much on them to encourage or to carry. I've found that in my marriage, there's a parallel, and it falls on traditional gender lines and all that. And so it took us a while to decide that we were wired to be a complementary marriage. But it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that it finally hit me that there was a difference between identity and role, and that my wife needs me to play a role. And when I feel like that role leaves the rules unfair, so she can bring her full crazy, probably not the best phrase, to me. I can't bring my full crazy to her, because it puts too much on her in a way that consumes, and that's not what the rules are. The specific example was, I hate going to the dentist. And so she's a twice a year girl. Kids get dragged along twice a year. And she brought it up, and it occurred to me, and she's like, because plaque creates heart issues, and that creates a threat. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, you're not even concerned about my teeth or my plaque or my heart. This isn't about me at all. This is, you just want somebody to do the job of taking care of you in the role. And it was finally like, yeah, dummy. So why are you fighting back as though it's an expression of identity instead of just playing the part and doing the role? I would imagine that as a person gets closer to 64, they learn the role well enough to pull it apart from the identity, so that you can carry both of them in a more matter-of-fact and light way. I'm 2 weeks into this post-dentist distinction between those two words. What do you think I'm going to hear as I listen down this path going forward?
Yes, dear. I can't wait to go again. That's a good start, Pete.
I do need to choose my battles better. Yes.
So my grandfather, sharing a few words of wisdom from him. When we find ourselves in a hole, stop digging. We're going to run through life. We're going to hit some brick walls, stand up, dust back off, and keep going. So when we talk about the difference in those two, I think it's really important to always take the higher end of the conversation. If the only thing you have to comment's negative, probably the best thing to do is not even bring the comment up. We have a responsibility and obligation, if it's of matters that are important, to address them and not hide them. Mm-hmm. Hey, wife, you're doing something that's damaging your health. I need to think about that, because if you're in bad shape, you're impacting me. But her fussing about me about should I go to the dentist or not, that's not the battle we want to pick on and be the winner of. So that's what 64 years has taught me, 63, 64. Pete, that choose my battles, be intelligent about it, and just be quiet unless something really needs to be said. He who listens learns more. we know that. So it's probably one thing that frustrates my wife, and she's never told me that. But I am a whole lot more quieter person than I was even 10 or 15 years ago. And it just, it's because I don't need to rattle. I don't need to make noise. I enjoy watching and learning and observing and helping. So I don't know if that completely answers your question.
No, what I hear in that is a grandfatherly ability to appreciate that there's it's not about me being a cowboy anymore. It's about me watching for where to bless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you've had to make those decisions, though, I guess key business decisions and or giving decisions, I think one of the great joys that I encounter with people who are in this centurion spot is they get to make choices for business that are sometimes really look absurd. Like, I've heard about Blast One's 7-to-1, if they cost their customer something they consider that theft, and they use a proverb to say we owe you 7 times that amount. That's a cool guarantee. I'm aware of another company that made a giving commitment, but they had to max their line of credit to give it away. And that was just the commitment they'd made to God first. I think that's pretty cool. And so sometimes it's straight business and when to take on a thing. And sometimes it's where to give. What have been some of your God-led or God-invited or God gave me high five and this was fun to do choices that you've gotten to make?
So I'm not going to give you any specific examples because that's between God and I, Pete.
Sure.
And I truly believe that's we've got a relationship we'll keep to ourselves. But I will tell you, we have a charitable giving statement here. We have a group that manages our charitable giving. We take it very, very seriously. There's 7 of us on that committee. My youngest son, Levi, I brought him in on that committee because I think it's good to instill that value into him. Jamie Levy, I read his book on Giving for Impact. Made one of the best books I've ever read to help me think about what is important in giving. And we think about the three R's. Are we giving for relief? Are we giving for restoration? And when we, if you're hungry and I feed you, I made you feel good today. But if I can teach you to plant that garden, then we have total restoration because we can teach you how to take care of yourself. So being focused, driven about what are my passions, where do I want to see dollars, personal dollars, Denise and I's dollars, and company dollars focused, and it's intentional, and there's a warmth of signing that check of knowing that I get to impact an organization, a person, a way of life, and that goes on the national, international side as well as local community, and it's a sense of peace that comes with it because God put me in a position and trusted me with those dollars to do what's right, and knowing that I'm fulfilling that requirement and obligation. I've used the term a lot that it warms my heart, or my heart is warm. So
I like that. There's another, I forget the name of the organization that also arrived in Henderson, who hires a lot of people from the same, they would be competing for the same people as you. But my understanding is that you played a role in helping them get there. And I the question I have beyond that is, I think the word parish is one that I get excited about. And so a parish priest will look at anything good that happens in a defined geography is good. And he's the priest for the whole group, whether or not you go to his church. And Protestant churches often don't think that way. Businesses rarely think that way, that anything, the only place where good can happen is at our headquarters. And I think that if a person has God's perspective, they will almost have to have a parish perspective. And I'm curious about how you would connect the dots. That feels like a different kind of giving, and it feels like how to be a cohort of like-minded business leaders. Do you have anything to say on that whole subject and bringing them in, and why that was important for you to do?
So, if a community is not healthy, if a parish or church is not healthy, how long do they last?
Right.
And when we look at, when we have opportunities for growth in our existing business or new businesses coming to our community, and we look at the enrichment to our community as a whole, then we realize we cannot be selfish about our organization, fear we're going to lose this person because they may get hired by that organization. We have to look at the benefit of the entire population of this community, and we think about, if it's doing better, we're doing better, our employees are doing better, the community's flourishing. We spend a lot of energy trying to promote that philosophy through our community, whether it's at the library or we have a program where we monitor who all are on community boards and encourage our employees in that giving side of things to give time and talent as well to organizations, especially that support our beliefs in community growth and individual growth and input. We want to track that and continue to grow and blossom that. Our growth groups, we have 7 growth groups, I think, going on currently inside the organization. We have lunch and learns. We now have 2 lunch and learns a month where we're bringing in external speakers. John Maxwell spoke to our group 2 or 3 weeks ago. January 22nd, as a matter of fact. Very, very special, and thankful for him to take time to do that. But we have an obligation to grow people. And as Corey says, yeah, we may grow them and lose them, but what happens if we don't grow them and they stay? So
I like that.
It's important to be able to look at the big picture and not be selfish.
So when I'm doing brand strategy, one of the things when we start talking about the voice of the brand is we think about what's the should that they would build around. And so it's easy to think about it within your industry. Like here's how it should work, and here's how we build, and that creates a competitive distinction. What's the should? What do you wish existed more amongst employers and companies? And if you could export a couple of understandings, what would you send to other leaders? What would you wish they got?
Well, I'm going to step out on the diving board and go off on this, Pete. I can honestly say I worked hard to earn and get where I am. There is a segment of especially the younger people, and again, I'm not going to identify a time frame, that live in this entitlement process and just think they should, we owe. And I really struggle with that, coming from my perspective and what I had to do to get here. There's not a promotion every 2 years. And, it's easy when you start on the floor and you get to operate a machine, and then I get to operate a forklift. I mean, those growing steps are pretty easy and simple. But when you start working your way up the management structure of an organization, you've got to give and show that you are really growing and learning to whittle up those steps. So I really truly believe we need almost a reset in some ways to get this younger group to understand it's not all on a platter. And there's a lot of them that work hard for it. I'm not, like I said, I'm stepping out on the diving board even saying this, but that's a continued frustration with me that I just hear so often anymore, that entitlement side of things. I wish it would go away. And in a big picture, peace would be so nice in the world. We don't have to, our dysfunctional government, this attitude about, I won't listen to you because I don't like what you have to say. I better listen to you. And I don't even have to agree.
Mm-hmm.
But if I won't listen to you, even when we don't agree, we will never come to a solution of whatever that problem is. And we've got disjointed at the hip as a country and maybe as a world at that point, Pete.
Well, we're back to the absence of 64-year-old, heart and wisdom in there, aren't we?
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a gap. There's 32 to 62, and then somewhere by the time you get to 82, things seem to lose a little wobble too. But I want to thank you for this time. It's been such a blessing to know you and to have these years and these conversations are always fun. It feels like I could go on for a long time with you on this. But
we both could, Pete. I feel as blessed as you do of our relationship, and the true friend, true trust. If we don't talk for 6 months, we pick up exactly where we left off, and that is such a blessing to me to know that you're praying for me and care about me, and just a true friend.
Absolutely.